All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Black Robe Regiment, brought to you by We Are the People. We want to give a shout out to Jordan Valley Construction. Thank you, Kevin and Kathy Smith, for supporting this show, making it possible. If you got any construction needs, reach out to them. I am so excited for today's show. You are not even ready for what we're about to bring. This is going to be a good show, don't you think, babe?
Oh, I'm so pumped. Do I get to introduce?
Do you want to tell them who is in the studio with us today?
Right now in the studio, we have the very best Rod for Utah. Rod Hall.
Rod Hall, everybody.
Rod Hall, everybody.
Welcome to the show.
So good. Big welcome. We're so excited. And so Rod Hall, for those of you who don't know, he is running for, it's in District 3, the state school board.
Yep.
So we're excited. You're going to win. It's going to be awesome. And we're pumped that you're here.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Yeah. So, Rod, first, maybe we could just start with you introducing yourself a little bit and maybe tell us a little bit of your background and how you got here running for the 3rd District School Board here in Utah.
Okay. I'm Rod Hall, and I am running for State School Board District 3. And, you know, how I got here is it's a long journey. You guys want to hear the full version?
Come on.
I got here to this place.
Let's hear it all.
I've been a youth pastor for the last 25 years, and I want to start with how I got there first.
So good.
I grew up not in this area, but down in the Layton area. My dad was in the military. That's what brought us to Utah from Ohio. My parents are from Georgia, but that's how they were transplanted here, was through the Air Force into Utah. And, you know, growing up in my home, it was a great home to grow up in. There was a time in my young years when my dad got off track. We were going to church as a family until I was about 12 years old. I'm not going to go into all the details about what happened with my dad, but as a result of that, I began to make some choices too, not blaming it on him, but I began to be steered in the wrong direction. And when I was 14 years old, I started using drugs. By the time I was 17, I was a drug addict from about 17 to 21 years old.
Wow.
I'm going to go back a little bit. My wife and I have been together since 7th and 8th grade.
Whoa.
Oh.
Been together. We've been married for 26 years. We just celebrated our anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations.
But so all the knucklehead stuff I'm going to tell you about here in a moment, she watched me go through all this and stayed with me and was faithful. But from the time I was 17, I was 21, I was a full-blown drug addict.
Wow.
In and out of treatment programs. And the last treatment program I went to was ranked number 2 in the nation. And I used drugs the day that I got out.
Wow.
My mom, who's a believer, loves the Lord, prayed for me all through my teen years. The whole situation I was going through, my mom and dad divorced when I was like 18 years old. I can remember going into that treatment program and coming out and reaching out to her. I reached out to my pastor too at that time, and still ended up messing up when I came out. And my wife, I knew that if I messed up again, I was going to be done for. So I hid it from her. She didn't know I had used drugs the night that I went out. I went to an NA meeting, a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and the guy that I went with, we ended up using drugs. And I came home, fake sleep, pretended like everything was okay. Nobody knew that I used drugs. The next morning, I got up and I was out on my back deck and I was smoking a cigarette. My mom just walks into my apartment.
Whoa.
She walks out on the back deck and she looks at me. No one knows I've used, okay? And she looks at me and she says, "Don't play games with God."
Wow.
She turned around and walked out.
I love your mom.
100%. I felt like God himself spoke to me in that moment. And the beautiful thing is I started going back to church, and I can remember all I was scared to walk through those doors. I just knew that everybody was going to judge me. They knew what had happened to my wife. My life is because my mom had brought me before the church to pray for me, and which I'm grateful she did. But when I walked in, man, the love, the outpouring of the love that I experienced was so beautiful.
Wow.
It changed my life. It did. It changed my life. And I fell on my face in that service before the Lord, and I said, "God, I've made a mess of my life. Would you please take it and do something with it?" And God raised me up, and he transformed me from the inside out, which is where change comes from the inside out.
Come on.
Yep.
And he gave me a new life, a new start. my pastor at the time, I just wanted to come and help out in youth ministry. That's all I wanted to do, like help
So
with games.
good.
You know what I mean? That's
So
it.
good, yeah.
And next thing you know, he had me sharing my testimony. He had me leading some Bible studies along the way as he saw fit. And this is going to probably blow you away. And I don't know where the wisdom came from in this, but about 8 months in, he gives me the keys and the code to the building.
Wow.
Now, that may not seem like a big deal to anybody in this room, but when I was a drug addict, I was a thief.
Wow.
I'd broken the trust of every person in my life. I had stolen from every person I loved and cared about. And when he gave me those keys and that code, it broke me. And it helped me to realize, God, you're giving me a new lease on life. Like, this is my opportunity. And it changed me. And so shortly after I gave my life to the Lord, he moved on, and our pastor we have now came on the scene. Somehow the Lord didn't reveal to him that I had only been there for 11 months. He didn't realize. So we carried on because there was revival in our church. God was blessed, and teens were coming to Christ, and lives were being changed, and he just let it continue on. And when he found out that I hadn't even been to Bible college or anything yet, he said, I'm going to start an institute in our church. And for 6 years, he trained me.
Wow.
There in our church.
And is that the church you're going to right now?
That's the church I'm at now. That's the church I'm
First Baptist Church.
Faith Baptist Church.
Faith
Baptist Church in Layton.
Sorry. Faith Baptist Church.
And God began a great work. And over the years, we've been able to speak into the lives of thousands of young people. Since then, I've been able to go to college, and I got a degree in a couple different things. Education is one, and counseling in another. But God's done amazing, amazing things. So how do we get here?
That's
amazing. I'm running for state school board. Okay?
Yeah.
So along the way, God opened the door. I'm an honorary wing commander for the 3-day fighter wing on the base.
Nice.
421 FGS maintenance. That's my squadron. It's good. Get a chance to work with the young men and women of that squadron, 18 to about 26 of the ages there, which has been phenomenal. And also, I'm a chaplain for the Salt Lake Police Department. Get a chance to invest in our community there too as well.
That's incredible.
So God opened up all these doors, right, where He's living His life out through me, right, in the areas that He wants to. So probably a year and a half ago, the Lord really impressed on my heart to run for public office, which is crazy. Like, who, that's out of this world. But He really did. So I went to my wife and I said, I think God wants me to run for public office. And you got to meet her. She's she's like, okay.
We need to bring her on.
She's like, okay, let's pray about it. So we took it before the Lord. There was nothing open at the time. I thought maybe city council, something like that. You know, not that that's a small, but I thought we've got to start somewhere. But maybe city council. Well, there's an organization called Path Forward Utah. Jamie Renda is in charge of this organization, and she can tell the story better than me. But she was wrestling. At 3 o'clock in the morning, this position for school board had opened up, and she knew about it. And I met her through some different dealings, and she thought, I'm going to ask Rod to run for state school board.
Wow.
She texts me at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I get the text, but I don't respond. I'm like, this lady has lost her mind. You know what I mean? State school board? Like, what are we talking? I haven't even started the local school board. State school board? Like, she's out of her mind. So I can't get it out. I can't get it out of my mind. Wow. And I told her, I said, I'll pray about it. And I was going on a survey trip to New York City for a mission trip that we're actually going on the first week in October.
Wow.
Nice.
Just to go see everything and scout everything out for the group that we're taking. And a current school board member, I won't say his name, he called me while I was there. And of course, Jamie had prodded him to call me to say, just maybe he's scared, maybe. So I asked him a ton of questions, and I'm walking over the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City. Wow. And I really had decided I'm not going to do this. This is not for me. But in this conversation, God really just confirms on my heart, this is what you're supposed to do.
Wow.
And so I committed to do it.
That's amazing.
Got back home, and first week in January went and signed the paper. You don't know what you're doing. Sign the papers to run. I mean, I think, okay, they're going to let people know, and that's all there is to it. There's a whole nother world out there when you're running for something in office, and we were just immersed right into it. But I'm going to tell you this: God opened the floodgates. Wow. And I didn't ask for a single endorsement along the way, but many people from House, Senate, community stepped out and endorsed me. Wow. And got behind me. Our church rallied behind us. I've got a picture I would love to show you guys. Yeah. The day that I announced it to our church, where the church gathered around me and laid hands on me and prayed over me.
Great.
It's one of the most beautiful pictures. And when I mean they rallied behind us, they rallied behind us. At convention, we had over 100 people there, church and community, shirts, signs.
Oh, so good.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
But as I've taken these steps, I know without a shadow of a doubt this is what God wants me to do. And so, the doors are wide open, and that's why I'm here today. And I'm so thankful I get to share my story because I want people to know who I am.
Yeah.
I'm just Rod Hall. You know what I mean? I'm just Rod Hall. I'm a guy that God's done a work in and through my life. And
so good.
I'm still excited about it. I haven't gotten over it. I haven't gotten over the work that God is doing in my life. It's amazing. So the fact that I get to share that with the community and share that with people, as we've gone through the campaign process, I haven't been shy about who I am. I tell people who I am. I'll even open the Word of God. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go when he's old and not depart from it.
Yep.
Our state constitution actually mirrors that. It says that a child is a parent's first responsibility, and they're responsible for the education of their children.
Wow.
And so it really mirrors what God says. And so it's no big thing to get out and say, hey, parents, it's your job. It's our job to raise up and educate our children. The Bible said it's arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. It's our job to direct them in the direction they're supposed to go. So what a huge responsibility we have as parents to do that. So I'm just excited to get in the fight and be involved with parents in our community and young people.
That's incredible.
Capacity.
That is awesome.
Wow. Well, you're qualified.
You know
said
what?
25 years or
Yes.
26 years in youth ministry.
Yes, absolutely.
Your own story yourself, walking through
and I think that was
everything.
the biggest thing for me, right? I do have a degree in education. I was a teacher for 10 years too as well in a private school.
Wow.
But, you think, what are my qualifications? Well, God has really helped me to see this is what you've been doing. What are you talking about? Like this, we've been immersed in the lives of young people, not just on a base level, but deep for many, many years. And Proverbs 4:23 says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Mm-hmm. The thing that we're supposed to be most diligent about is protecting our hearts.
Yep.
And that's kind of been our theme, to help protect the hearts and minds of our young people.
That's awesome.
And I know, and you guys know this well too, what goes into our mind impacts our hearts.
Yep.
What impacts our heart comes out in our life.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And so the seeds that are sown now and planted in the lives of our young people, they're going to bring forth fruit. We want it to be fruit, the right fruit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
God's glory.
So Rod's my new BFF.
I'll stop.
That's what's happening.
We met Meg. We're regular in here. I'm wishing we were in District 3. That's what I'm wishing right now, and personally. I want to ask you, so you felt God spur you into this, and clearly, there has to be a level of passion around this to even be open to God to talk to you about that. What is your highest priority to, or let me phrase it this way. What's the thing that you're most concerned about changing if you, when you become the District 3 school? What issues do you want to address first? And then what are you most optimistic about here in Utah with the education system right now?
So the issues that I want to address first is, if you watch any of my campaign videos at rodforutah.com, you'll see that I'm talking about parental choice, parental involvement, parental engagement.
Wow.
I believe that the parents are the answer here. And when you invite parents back into this space, and I'll be honest with you, I think for years, as parents, we've said, hey, this is, school time is yours. You know what I mean? Like you take care of our kids, you speak into our kids' lives, and we've kind of moved away from being involved and plugged in the way that we should be.
Wow.
And so I think because there's been a lot of red flags recently, the eyes of parents are opening, and they realize, hold on a second, we need to be back in the space again. And this is a parent's right state. Like I believe that parental rights have been preserved in our state. We want to continue to do that. But we have been challenging not just parents, but administrators, teachers. Hey, let's make sure that we don't just challenge parents to be involved. Let's make sure there's an open door. There's been this weird rift between parents and teachers. And first of all, I want to say this: I love teachers. Mm-hmm. They're on the front lines, man. They're fighting a battle and a war on the front lines. And I think a lot of it, parents didn't understand what teachers are going through. And they're working 50, 60 hours a week. They're trying to stay in compliance with all these different things. They're doing everything except for teaching in the classroom a lot of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To try to fall, to stay within compliance with what they're supposed to do. And so I was just in a meeting before I came here, which was awesome to hear me say, we need to let teachers get back to teaching.
Wow.
And I think as the door opens up, they're going to be more willing to let parents come into that space and be plugged in and be involved, because when parents step in, it brings stability, number one, and it brings accountability on a whole nother level, which is necessary. And so that's really my passion, to see a cohesive relationship built between parents and between teachers. And this is not something that we can accomplish alone. It's something we have to do together. We just happen to be blessed to be in one of the greatest states in the nation, where we have an amazing set of teachers all throughout the state, and an amazing group of parents. And when parents step in, my hope and prayer, and parents, if you're listening to this, that we don't step in with a critical spirit. We step in with a spirit that says, how can I serve and how can I help? Wow. That's what I hope and pray will happen. And if we'll do that, teachers need parents plugged in. I just heard a story about attendance being improved in a school when moms got together and said, you know what, we can help out with this. And just a group of moms in Wasatch County got together and said, when we see kids walking in the hall, we're going to say, hey, where are you headed? Where are you going? And if we see them walking out, they say, hey, where are you going? And attendance has gotten better, but I don't know what the percentage is, but by a great amount, because parents came together and said, hey, we can help in this area in our school. Just by showing up and being there and being a presence in the school, help kids realize you can't just come and go as you please. You're supposed to be here to learn and be educated. You know what I mean? And you need to stay on campus and stay focused on the goal. So I thought that was awesome. That was a great story.
Really cool.
That's so cool. I remember a few years ago seeing a story of there was a high school that was having a lot of violence and a lot of some gang activity and a bunch of dads got together.
That's awesome.
You know what story I'm talking about?
Yes.
And they would just walk the halls and make dad jokes, but it was that presence.
I love it.
So one of your platforms is parental involvement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Parental engagement.
Engagement.
Get engaged, man. Get plugged in and know what's going on in your school. Support our teachers. They need it. And I think if teachers know they have a parent support, they're more likely to want to have the discipline they need in the classrooms. One of the things, people don't like this, but it's okay if they don't.
Yeah, just take it.
We need accountability. Our kids need to be held accountable for their actions and their decisions. You can't have a kid cuss a teacher out and be back in the class the next day. It totally removes the authority of the teacher, and it brings down the spirit of that environment. And it's not an environment that's conducive for learning at the highest level. So we want to make sure that our teachers know they're supported. And I think if the staff knows the parents have their back, the administrator knows, the teacher knows, they can really take action and do the things necessary to help build character and resilience in our kids. Because when you give them everything they want, they don't have any discipline in their life, we're going to ruin a generation of young people.
Wow.
Sure.
Very good.
That is some good stuff.
Can I ask some, I guess, of the crazier questions? Is that okay?
Bring the crazy.
So, the crazy is all the LGBT stuff coming in.
CRT.
Sure.
Yeah, just transgenderism. All of I was just at the book fair this last week and looking at the books that they were offering. So on one table it had that topic. So what's your level of involvement with that, and how do you respond to that? How can we help respond to that to see a change?
I think the first thing I want to say is this, that we need to love everybody. Mm-hmm. People need to know that they're loved and they're cared about. Mm-hmm. But school is for educating. Mm. And it needs to be the center of education and nothing else.
Very good.
And so we need to figure out how to peel the layers back and keep that stuff outside of the classroom. Let parents, let the home deal with all those types of things. When we come to school, we come there to be educated. So I think we have to get back to educating in the classroom. And that's what teachers signed up to do anyways.
Very good.
And you're gonna have some rogue teachers out there that want to bring some indoctrination to the classroom.
Yep.
This is what I would say to that. If they're reprimanded and they don't stop, then they need to go.
Yeah.
They can't be there. Their job.
So that comes down
educate.
to parents being involved.
Absolutely. How else are you going to know?
Because can I ask my other question?
Go for it.
I'm itching at it because, there's a ton of mama bears out there. Sure. There's just like how you're saying God put it on your heart to run for office. There's a move of God happening in that sphere. And then same with all the mama bears. There's a lot of people pulling their kids out of school to homeschool, or they're keeping them in school and just trying to be more, just participating more in the school and trying to change things that are going on to put an end to the woke agendas and all that. Anyway, so, and then for a lot of the mama bears out there, we're also soccer moms. I mean, my life is crazy, like we're doing all these different things. And then the PTA is asking, can I have help here or whatever? So I just want to know, with all the moms that have like the most insane schedule, like myself, what would you recommend my voice being the most influential in? Like, where should I put my voice into?
So I would say this: it's not a few people doing everything, right? It's everybody doing something. Mm-hmm. And so I think the very best place to engage with is with your teacher, your child's teacher.
Okay.
On an intimate, personal level, right? So that you know what's going on in your child's classroom. You have steady communication with your teacher, and I think that's the very best way to get involved. If every parent would do that, could you imagine? You're not going to be able to do everything. There's going to be a list of things the teacher says, I need these things done. Who can step in and help out and contribute here? And I think dividing it up between the parents, you can accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished. Yeah. There's a real big shortage when it comes to TAs and different things like that, and teachers get overwhelmed, and they have a lot to do. They have a tremendous amount to do. And any help that a parent can give, I'm talking about actual help, right?
Yeah.
Not nitpicking, but actual help
Yeah.
is a huge blessing, and it's a contribution to that classroom and every student in it.
Okay. All right, so that's good, because I could feel overwhelmed with an agenda that's coming upon our school system. And we're from California, so even back then, like, our kids weren't ready to be in school yet, but I was thinking, am I going to have to be a homeschool mom because the schools are crazy? Mm-hmm. And anyway, so
that flows.
First, just to do something, to be in the classroom or to be talking to the teacher, actually helping them is the best way for me to make a change.
Find out what they need.
Okay.
What do you need from me as a parent? Some might say, I just need your support. I just need to know that you're there. I need you to believe that I'm not going to try to do anything to your child that's not in their best interest. And if you hear something that's out of kilt, you don't just take it at face value. You come and talk to me about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't react. You know what I'm saying?
If I tell you that Billy said a bad word, don't initially be defensive.
Yes.
Because they're kids.
Billy doesn't know bad words.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's like, well, he's a kid and he's going to do dumb things.
Sure.
That's what kids do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very good.
Okay. On that same vein, I really, I was perusing your website and looking at your content, and this just jumped up to me. This is directly from your Rod for Utah. It's right there on the screen too, so check it out. So your heart is for youth, and you strive to educate them that their value and self-worth, inspire them to believe they can be who they were designed to be, and they can succeed in any environment life has to offer. Yes. That last part jumped out at me, because although it's inspiring and it's open to some interpretation, for us, as Lauren said, we're refugees from communist California, and no, we love California. God's doing a thing there. But
I always get mad at him when he says that.
I know I'm gonna get in trouble.
I know.
But we did see that's the tip of the spear with some of the agendas that parent choice, not really a thing there. But one of the things that we really saw moving through the schools, and we didn't grow up with this, but is the CRT, critical race theory, and the thing. So I want to just go into that, because that was the first question I had when I signed my kids up for school. Is this in your curriculum? Because what I personally don't like is the idea of seeding in kids. You can't succeed because the system's against you.
That's right.
And so I just want your thoughts on, one, what are your thoughts on critical race theory? And two, depending on what your thoughts are, what's going to be your stance as far as any engagement with our school systems in that or lack thereof?
So if you dive into it, they're going to tell you over and over again that critical race theory is not in our curriculum. But I'm so thankful for HB 261, which is designed to strike down DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion from not just higher ed, but all the way through our K through 12.
Oh, wow.
And this is why I think it's so important that we don't have this, okay? Number one, I think that critical race theory and DEI go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm gonna back up a little bit. My parents were the first to integrate white schools in Georgia.
Really?
In Newton, Georgia. And so when I talk about growing up in a racist culture. I mean, it was fully segregated.
Wow.
The KKK burned a cross in my grandma's front yard.
No.
No joke. My grandfather was killed by KKK members.
No way.
So they grew up in this environment.
Wow.
And my dad joined the Air Force, which brought him out of that environment, and taught from the time he was young not to look a white man in the eye. All these different things.
Wow.
When my dad came to know Christ, it changed his life.
Wow.
Gave a whole new picture on life and who he was in Jesus, and my mom too as well. And so my parents never raised us to think that we were any less because of the color of our skin or we couldn't accomplish anything in life.
Come on.
Both of them, my dad had a successful military career. My mom had a successful career with the child development. Accomplished great things, both of them, and they come from that background. And so they raised us to believe that we were made for more.
Right.
We could accomplish whatever was put before us. Yeah. And CRT and DEI, it's killing our culture. Our young people were made for more. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It doesn't matter what your background. It doesn't matter where you came from.
Yes.
God can accomplish and will, if we let him, anything through your life if you allow him to do it.
Yep.
And so as far as the DEI goes in our schools, you're right. It does. It holds young people down. It says to them, first of all, it pitches our country like it's not the greatest country on the face of the earth.
Right.
Like it didn't come from humble beginnings and grow from obscurity to a world power overnight, divinely by the hand of God. Now, there's some things in our history that we don't like, and we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that. We don't need to run from that, but we also need to talk about what God has done to bring our nation to where it is today.
Good.
This is an incredible nation, and this state is one of the greatest states in the nation.
Wow.
When I grew up here in our area, I had black friends, white friends, Hispanic friends. We all loved each other. The race thing was not an issue. DEI brings race into the conversation.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't need to be brought into the conversation.
Exactly.
We're people. We're part of the human race. And this is what I would say. I think you get what you focus on.
Yes.
And so when you are in school, it's funny, and I'm going to be real brief with this, and somebody's not going to like
this. This is so important. This is go there.
Like the worst word on the planet right now is the N word, but nobody was using the N word. Matter of fact, it's funny because some of the kids that started school this year, they went through this whole thing on how you can't say the N word, you're going to be expelled. Well, nobody was even thinking about the N word when school started this year. They brought it up. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what happens.
And you get what you focus on. And so, all of a sudden it's this novel word. Everybody, it's like, they're not even, if you tell a kid, hey, that hole on the wall right there, don't look in that hole.
Oh, yeah.
By no means, don't look in that hole. You know how many kids are going to sneak and look at that hole? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And nobody's even thinking about the N word. They're not thinking about race. Most people that would use that word aren't even using it in the content. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So it's designed on purpose to bring division. It's designed on purpose to divide us.
Absolutely. Shout that out.
And it's a real thing. And so if you come to our church, and I hope that you'll come visit at some point.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is a melting pot.
Y'all need to go visit.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, it's beautiful. It's what heaven's going to look like.
I
Every
love that.
kindred, tribe, nation.
Wow.
It's a melting pot of everybody. It's beautiful. One time, my pastor is a black lady in our church named Mrs. Georgia. And he's like, anybody see Miss Georgia? Anybody see? He's like, she's right there in the auditorium, but he's not looking for a black lady.
Yeah.
He's looking for Miss Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's just amazing how God has neutralized that in our church. It's a beautiful thing in light of Christ. So those are things I hope and pray make their way out of our school system, out of our curriculum. I don't think it's as prevalent as people want to believe. I think there's some of the tenets are there and they shouldn't be. But if we'll speak up like we are now and we'll speak out, it'll go away.
Squashed.
It'll go away. It'll go away.
Yeah, I mean, our kids are in public school because we assessed that it's not. There's no way we would do it in California. Just being honest, there's no way. But you said it. It's like if we want to keep it that way, and even make it better, we have to stand up.
That's right.
To that.
I'm not saying there's no racism here. I want to be careful.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this is not a racist place. It's not. This is a beautiful, beautiful place. We need to embrace that here in the state of Utah and love and just talk about that. Loving each other, being there for each other. One of my friends, his mom she runs a black student union at her school. Well, guess what? It's not just for blacks. It's for everyone. They invite you in to learn about Black culture. You know what I mean? Because I want to learn about, Asian culture, Black culture. I want to eat the food. You know what I'm saying? I want to enjoy all of that, And I think
celebrate
it's
heritage.
It's the most beautiful thing. It's the most, she took a bunch of kids to DC to see some different things, had to do with Black history. And I thought, and it wasn't just Black kids, it was kids, Hispanic, white, from every background. That's beautiful to me.
Yeah.
We need to find ways, we need to create ways to help our kids come together, not to further divide them.
I love that. Because I want to say, too, the first time that I ever felt division was when Black Lives Matter started to come on the scene.
Right.
Because, born and raised California and all different colors, So I'm not thinking anything.
Right.
And then the Black Lives Matter came on, and one of my good friends who was a worship leader who's Black, I was talking to her because I'm like, why are you like getting super passionate over this? She would be a person for the Black Lives Matter movement. And then she was starting to say all these things where like just segregating stuff. And I'm like, really? I never even saw this ever. It's like, well, I'm on the worship team and people just think Black people entertain. I'm like, what? No, you're a phenomenal singer. That's why you're up there. Yes. I'm not as good as you. And that's why you're singing up there and I'm not,
But you see how that lens can begin to.
Yeah, it's like I can't buy a house because of this. And because in little writings and stuff, I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. And so to me, that's when segregation was happening. But I was trying to say, no, that's literally not how anyone is thinking around you.
Yep.
So some people are buying into that spirit of division, honestly. That's what I feel.
So I sat on a diversity panel on the base, and I didn't know how this was going to go. It was a bunch of high-ranking officials, and here I was in the midst of them, and I thought, man, I hope these guys don't get up and start talking like that,
Yeah.
My heart was so moved by the fact they talked about their hard work and what it took to get to where they were, and the opposition that they had to overcome, and what they went through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they didn't look at it. They looked at it as a catalyst, right? This propelled me to want to be greater because, I'm not going to let somebody look at me, because of the color of my skin and force me down. I'm going to shoot for new heights. And it was beautiful. One of my best friends is one of the highest ranking men he's a Black man in the Space Force. He said one of the biggest things he's got to overcome when he walks into the room, do people think that he earned his way there? Or is he a DEI hire? Basically, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's like, no. And he worked hard. He was enlisted. Got accepted in the officer's training program, went back in as an officer, and he's earned everything that he's achieved. And that's a beautiful thing. So I think that oftentimes DEI, it pulls away.
Yeah, it's a demonic thing.
Yeah, it pulls away and it says, you're less than. We've got to help you. No, you don't. You know what I mean?
No.
This is equal opportunity.
Yeah, we're all made in the image of God. And so we all have the divine purpose that we can work out.
We're all made for more.
Exactly.
Every last one of us.
Yeah. Amen.
Man.
Find your place, fulfill your purpose. You got to figure out what that is.
Very good.
Are you sure you don't want to just double down, go for governor?
Stop.
I just saying, man, it's refreshing. I think
super refreshing.
People get over the cryptic talk of politics. Because nobody says, I'm going to do something bad. You find a pretty way to package a bad idea, or you find and so I want to say, this is what we need to be looking more for in Utah and in our country, is people who are willing to say what they really think, even if the risk of it being unpopular. Yep. Even at the risk. And I just appreciate your care, your thoughtfulness, but you didn't dodge that question. You didn't dodge the LGBTQ question. You're just saying, this is what we would do. So appreciate that. Go ahead.
You're a true leader. So we're thankful for you.
God.
Yeah. Another question, just because I want to stay in this lane of education. It's so important to everyone listening, that the enemy will do his best to hijack the next generation.
Absolutely.
That is his goal. And so, a big topic also in education is obviously, thank God nothing's happened recent here, but we have these school shootings.
Yes.
And around the election time, it always gets brought up.
Yeah. And obviously the thing that drives it, I think everyone cares, nobody is okay with this.
Right.
But we've got the whole Second Amendment debate. So I'm just curious, with you protecting our kids, what would be your policies, your way you would want to ensure safe environment for our kids from any mentally unstable person and all that stuff,
Sure.
While living in that balance of Second Amendment and all that. So just where do you stand on that, and what would you implement?
There's a lot of things there.
It's a big one.
A lot. I've got a really good friend, Kurt Oda, and he works with the school, UMA, and I really love their model, what they've done. It's a charter school. They actually have armed guards on campus. Jeez. They patrol the halls. Yep. It's beautiful. Yeah. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And I don't think you would. I think you could probably put something out there, and there probably wouldn't be a veteran or retired veteran out there that would be itching at the opportunity to come and sit and protect our kids.
I mean, think of the double fold there of, there's also just a strong male presence, especially in high schools. The kid who's thinking about starting a fight because some guy talked to his girlfriend.
Sure.
He's like, I don't know. Bruce is here, and Bruce could probably take me.
Right.
It's just.
So how can we do that? Is that through the PTA then? That if you.
That's
a big one. Yeah.
It's a big one.
I think that's going to have to be like a legislative type of a move to allow that, to be able to take place. But there's people out there that know more about that than I do. But that's definitely something that we can dive in and tackle. It's funny because
Dads
people have called me and talked about school
Dads
safety.
With guns.
School safety. And there's people that care about it in our legislature that care about our school safety. And so the things that need to be done, I think that we're ready to have those conversations in a way that we never had before. This board that God is putting together is going to be probably one of the most conservative boards that we've had in
incredible.
So I'm really excited about what's to come, the doors that are going to be open. And I say that saying this too, I want to work with everybody on the board. Okay, right. It's a 15-panel board, and I think it's been splintered in many different ways, and people aren't willing to come together and listen to one another, and I think we need to be willing to do that too as well. So that's my heart. I don't want to get in there and force my hand. I want to get in there and say, hey, we all signed up because we love our kids here in the state of Utah. Let's make decisions that are best for our kids. Yeah. And let's put some of this junk aside. I mean, sometimes out of spite, people won't vote for certain things on the board. When we need to put all that aside and remember that we need to keep our kids in mind, their best interests in mind.
Oh, that's so good.
And our families and our parents. That's who we're here to serve, right?
That's so good.
That's great.
Okay, so election's over. You get in the office. What do you think your the first thing you want to tackle right off the bat? I mean, there's a lot of things we've talked about, but what are you itching to get in there and say, we are going to address this now? So
I'm not saying this is because of me, but my messaging has been this cohesive relationship between parents and teachers. Well, I go to the thing I went to today was all about that. It was about bridging the gap between parents and teachers. The messaging I'm hearing, I sat and met down with my local board, my local school board, not local school board, but local district leaders. And they wanted to know, what are people saying? What are they, and transparency, parental engagement. And guess what? In the emails, we need parental engagement. We're willing to be more transparent. Hey, here's some curriculum you guys can come down and look at. It's like it's already happening. So the things that I am passionate about, it's like God is already, people are listening. So just so you know, when I'm on the campaign trail, hundreds of people, and if you put them collectively, thousands of people have stood out and said, this is what needs to be done, or these are the things we're most worried about. Teachers, these are the issues we're struggling with. So we've been vocal about that stuff, and they're listening. They're listening. So people send me a text and show me an article. They're listening. Keep saying it. They're listening. Look, keep saying it. So everything that I'm praying for is coming to fruition. And someone's like, no, they're trying to do it all before you get in there so they can take credit for it. I don't care who gets the credit. I just want it done. You know what I mean? Awesome. I could care less who gets the credit. I just want to see our schools be a place where our parents feel comfortable being there. Our teachers are happy to see our parents. Our young people are being educated, and they're growing, and they're becoming resilient, and becoming what they're in a position where they can become what they're supposed to become for the glory of God. So
that's awesome.
That's what I care about the most.
So good. What about prayer in schools? Would you say, how do you feel like it is right now? Like, are there restrictions with prayer in schools currently? Like, how? I would say this: if we want to see prayer brought back into schools, like this week, See at the Pole was celebrated. Yeah.
And our young people can bring prayer back into schools.
Wow.
And they can meet together. They can pray before school. They can pray after school. They can pray on their lunch break. They can, you know what I mean? They can. So
they have the right to do that.
That's right. Yeah. They have the right to do that. Bring prayer and the presence of God back into our schools again. So that's what my challenge would be. We want to challenge young people to have a dynamic love relationship with the Lord. Well, when you have that, when Jesus is real in your life, it doesn't just stay here. It's gonna flow out. You know, he's an artesian, right? He's an he's gonna burst out of your life. And so we want our kids to be, he says, let your light so shine before men.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to go try. It just means let Jesus be who he is in and through your life. And that means that's with other believers, you're going to be called to a place of prayer and spending that time together. That's what I hope our kids will. It might sound radical, but who cares? It will bring a peace and a power and a presence to our schools that's desperately needed. So
wow. That's so good.
Sorry, I have another follow-up question.
Hey, let's go.
I'm just feeling jealousy because we're not in your, we don't live in your district. And so I'm just jealous that I don't. So what happens with the district that we're in, or people are in other districts and they're listening to this and they're all jealous? How come I don't have Rod for Utah? That's going to be my person. Our other districts, do you guys work together?
Yes.
Can they get inspired by what you guys are doing?
State school board is a 15-panel board that oversees the education of all the kids in the state of Utah.
Okay.
And so what's going to happen on that board and what's already beginning to happen now, which is very exciting, is going to impact our whole state. It'll impact every family, every student across the state of Utah. And that's what makes it so beautiful. So, parents can get excited about what's going to happen. I think God's getting ready to do something great. And for those who don't believe in God, it's okay. God's going to do something great. And it's going to impact every student and every family in a positive way. So I'm really excited about it. This is what I think. If it can be done anywhere, it's here.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's here in our state. I think this will be a model. What God does here will be a model that other states can draw from and say, you know what, we want that here too as well.
Incredible.
So it's ripe for the picking. It really is. It's
yeah. So I think a lot of people, I actually think this would be very helpful. The truth is a lot of us have busy lives. And, I consider myself, I like history. I'm politically active. And even now I'm I don't actually know how the legislative power or the workings, and you're saying there's 15 of you, and those are the 15 people that decide all of the curriculum that gets approved, everything. How does this work, and what's the trickle down effect from your office? Obviously there's the legislator who makes the laws.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just maybe walk us through a little bit for the layman who's I don't even know what you're going to be doing.
So when those laws come out, the school board drafts policy and rule that's passed down to the LEAs, passed down to the districts, and those things begin to be implemented there. And so, not even necessarily curriculum, but the guidelines for that, right? That they can't go beyond. Those things are put together there in policy and rule with the board. So the state school board, and then finances too as well, $8.4 billion budget, the second largest budget in our state. They decide how that's going to be spent, how it's allotted, to go out into the district. So it is a big task, but it flows down and it has to be implemented. So this is where parents come in. This is where accountability comes in. This was a big deal to me because I was in a meeting today where I heard some amazing things that are taking place right now on the board. But how does that come from the state school board, this policy, this rule, and how do we make sure that it's being implemented in every school and every district? And of course, that's the superintendent's job, all those things, but every classroom, it's a big deal. And so you have to have some oversight. And I think that's when parents come into play, that they're holding. And so one of the ladies I met today on the portal for parents on the school board, they're trying to create more transparency. So what are your parental rights? Those are up there. And I had a great talk with her today. I said, okay, I think it's great, but parents don't know it's there. They have to learn to know that it's there. Then we have to make it concise because you said we're busy, right? So it needs to be in bite-sized pieces where parents can digest it and say, okay, I know what our rights are. I know what we should be looking for in the classroom. Do we see those things in our classroom? Are they being carried out? Are these things being followed in our school? And that's what that. It's not that you're trying to keep everybody under your thumb, but you want accountability. You want to make sure, because those people that spoke on that panel believe those things are going into practice in our schools. Well, how do we know? There's got to be a way to make sure that we know those things are going into practice. So I think parents are the key.
I love the accountability thing. If there's nothing to hide, then it wouldn't be a problem, right?
That's right.
So good.
Yep.
Well, because of time, I think a lot of people on who are watching will want to talk to you and maybe ask some questions. How can they get a hold of you?
So I'm pretty easy. My cell phone's on the website, email's on the website. You can chat with me directly through my website. And it's funny because I'll call people back and they're like, is this really you? Or is this like an answer?
Is this AI?
Really yeah, it's me. Call me. Somebody wanted one of my signs taken down. They're like, we weren't expecting you to call back about that. Well, it's because it was blocking the view of traffic. Anyways,
wow.
I called them back and I went and took it down.
So when you get into office, are you going to continue to have that access
I think you have to have that. I think you do. But I also want to encourage people to go through the chain, right? Mm-hmm. If you're having an issue with a teacher, talk to the teacher. If you don't get anywhere with the teacher, talk to the administrator. If you don't get anywhere with the administrator, go to your local school board member. So there's a local school board, then there's your state school board. At that point in time, the superintendent should be involved in that process too as well. If you don't get anywhere else, bring it to the state school board. And I know that's a long process. A lot of times people bypass everybody and go right to the legislator, you know what I'm saying, to deal with an issue. But I think that those roles are there for a reason. So give the teacher a chance to make things right. Give the principal a chance to make things right. If you can't make it right, bring it all the way up and we'll make sure we take care of it. I had somebody send me some pictures of something that was being taught in the classroom the other day. And I want you to know, sometimes you're going to have some cases where things are, it looks a little radical, and it is. What I saw, I was like, no way, that's no good. But if there's no record of that being reported, like, let's go through the steps. So she did that. She took her kid out of the class because the things that were being taught in the class. And if that type of behavior continues on, we need to make sure there's a record so that we can eventually deal with that teacher. And if they need to be removed, they need to be removed. So
excellent.
Parent accountability.
Absolutely.
If
well,
we're
really
holding
excited.
them accountable,
Yep.
that's awesome.
And I'm going to say this.
Say it. Come on.
Say it.
Parents need to be held accountable.
Wow.
So we're talking about attendance issues and getting our kids to school.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal. I mean, a kid misses 30 days of school. How about this one? They miss almost the whole year, but they're passed on to the next grade.
It's not fair to that next teacher.
It's not fair to the next teacher. It's not fair to the student. And so parents being held accountable too as well. And I think the school system has to step in and do that. I know that we have laws in Utah about children not being left behind, all those things, but I think we do a great disservice to a child to move them all the way through and then to graduate them when they've missed, half of their schooling time and launch them out in the world for failure 100% of the time.
Wow.
So I think we owe more to parents and to students, and I think parents need to be held accountable too as well. So.
Wow.
That's so good.
Amazing. Well, I have him on my phone as Rod for Utah, so I feel very special.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to go ahead and close the show up.
Yep. Rod, we just want to thank you. As we close the show, what can we do to help support? We brought you on here. We want to support you. We hear what you're saying. So what can people do?
This
to
might
back
sound
you?
cliche, but pray for me. I'm still in a race right now. It's general election, and I people, you shouldn't be so nice to your opponent. I got a great opponent that I'm going against right now. She's really nice. She's a sweet lady, but I feel like this is what God wants me to do. And I also want to say this: if it's not, I don't want to win. I'm just being 100% honest with you.
Yeah.
If I'm not supposed to walk through that door, I don't want to win. But it seems like this is the door that God has opened for me. So pray for me as we go through this process, and don't stop there. Get out and vote. Tell friends and family members. Get out and actually vote, and let's do our part in our communities too as well. And so I do want to say this. It's the little saying that I have: what goes into the mind impacts the heart. What impacts the heart impacts our lives. And so we all need to be careful what we're putting in, what we're planting, because those seeds will eventually bring forth fruit in our lives. So remember that you are what you are becoming. What you're putting into your life right now, what I'm putting into my life, is what's going to eventually bear forth fruit. So
Amazing.
Come on.
Amen. That was incredible.
Well, thank you, Rod Hall. Thank you
Thanks,
for being
man.
with us.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the show. What a treat to have Rod Hall on the show. We want to thank one more time Jordan Valley Construction. Thank you for making this show possible. And don't forget to check out all the good content at wearethepeople.org. And feel free to give us a shout and a follow and share some of this content. And let's get behind Rod Hall and get him elected. Love you guys. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you next week.